The Philadelphia Eagles just shook the NFL world with a move that nobody saw coming. Brandon Graham, the heart and soul of this defense for more than a decade, is back. That's right. BG has officially unretired and rejoined the Birds. This is a move that goes beyond X's and O's. We're talking about a player who's been the emotional engine of this team, who bleeds green, who made that strip sack in the Super Bowl. And now, at a time when the Eagles are thin at edge rusher, when the defense has been struggling to generate sacks, here comes BG charging out of the tunnel again, number 55 on his chest, bringing not just experience but leadership, energy, and a whole lot of heart. Vic Fangio, the Eagles' defensive coordinator, spoke to the media about Graham's return, and you could tell he's excited, cautiously optimistic, but definitely fired up. He said it's all going to come down to what kind of shape Graham's in. And that's not just about conditioning. It's about whether he can still handle the physical punishment of the trenches, still play with that same explosive burst off the edge. Remember, BG is coming back after what was shaping up to be one of his most efficient seasons before tearing his triceps. But even before the injury, his production was undeniable. A PFF grade near 80, strong against the run, disruptive as a pass rusher, and he was doing all that in a rotational role. In 12 games, he had 4 sacks and over 20 pressures. Those are solid numbers for a vet, and they're proof he can still play at a high level, even if it's in limited snaps. Now, let's put this move into context because the Eagles are dealing with some serious attrition on the defensive line. They've been decimated at edge rusher. Players like Azeez Ojulari and Nolan Smith are banged up or on injured reserve. Zdarius Smith retired. So right now, we're talking about guys like Jix Hunt and Patrick Johnson being leaned on for meaningful reps. That's not ideal, especially for a team with championship aspirations. This defense ranks near the bottom in sacks. 11 total, that's tied for 25th in the league. Their sack percentage is even worse, sitting at just 4%, which is 29th in the NFL. Now, to be fair, they're still getting pressure. They're 5th in total pressures, but pressure without production doesn't win you playoff games. That's why Vic Fangio has been blitzing more than usual, and if you know Fangio's history, that tells you a lot. This is not a guy who likes to blitz. He's doing it because the front four isn't getting home on its own. That's a problem, and BG, even at 36 years old, might just help fix it. But don't get it twisted. This can't be the only move. If you're Howie Roseman, you have to be looking at the pass rush and thinking bigger. That brings us to the big bombshell of the week. The Dallas Cowboys are reportedly interested in trading for Max Crosby. That's not just smoke. According to Trey Wingo, who's not typically a newsbreaker, Dallas has reached out to the Raiders about acquiring Crosby. And while Wingo might not have a reputation for breaking news, this feels legit. He's plugged in, and if he's tweeting something like this, he's hearing it from someone with real knowledge. The Cowboys trading for Crosby will be massive. It would completely change the dynamic in the NFC East, and the Eagles would feel the impact immediately. Let's not forget, they already traded away Micah Parsons to the Packers because they didn't want to pay him. That deal made Micah the highest-paid non-quarterback in league history, over $46 million per year. The Cowboys clearly didn't want to commit that kind of money. So, what does it say if they're now targeting Max Crosby, a guy who signed a $35 million per year extension not too long ago? It says they're desperate. It says they know their defense is broken. And it says that Jerry Jones may be trying to undo the mess he created. Because let's be real, the Dallas defense is a disaster. They're allowing nearly 30 points per game, which ranks 30th in the league. They're dead last in yards allowed, dead last on third down, bottom tier in the red zone. It's ugly. And when you look at why that's happening, it starts with losing a player like Micah Parsons. He was the heartbeat of that unit, and replacing the kind of production is not easy unless you go get a guy like Max Crosby. And let's be honest, Crosby is a monster. He's got 4 sacks already this season. Last year, even in an injury-shortened campaign, he had over 7 sacks. The year before that, he had 14.5. He's a game wrecker. He's a tone setter. He's a guy that offensive lines have to account for on every single snap. If Dallas adds him, they instantly become a much more dangerous team. Now here's where it really gets interesting for Philly fans. The Eagles play the Cowboys twice a year. So if Dallas gets Crosby, that's 2 games where your offensive line, as good as it is, has to deal with a relentless pass rusher coming off the edge. That's not fun. And when you zoom out and look at the NFC as a whole, things are wide open. There's no clear-cut dominant team. Week to week, the power rankings change. The Eagles, the 49ers, the Lions, everyone's vulnerable. A move like this by Dallas would be a serious power play, a signal that they're going all in. So where does that leave the Eagles? Should Howie Roseman make a counter move? Should he be in the mix for Max Crosby too? It's a fair question, especially when you remember that Roseman reportedly made the biggest trade offer for Micah Parsons earlier this year. That tells us a lot. It tells us he's not afraid to swing big. He loves elite talent. He's always looking to add difference makers. If he was willing to go after Micah, why not go after Max? Of course, the asking price is steep. Raiders insiders like Mitchell Renz are saying it would take at least 2 first-round picks, maybe more. Possibly even a player or 2 thrown in. That's a lot. But if you're the Raiders, it makes sense. They're not one piece away. They're a mess. They just got shut out by the Chiefs. They're staring down another lost season. Trading Crosby would hurt in the short term, but it could set them up for a quicker rebuild if they get the right haul. And when you think like Howie Roseman, always looking for value, always thinking 2 steps ahead, you have to at least consider it. But even if Howie doesn't go all in on Crosby, there are still other names to watch. Guys like Jermaine Johnson or Bradley Chubb could be more realistic targets. Players who can still make an impact without costing a fortune in draft capital. Because again, this pass rush needs help. The numbers don't lie. And Vic Fangio knows it. That's why the Eagles didn't just pick up the phone and ask BG to come back. They made it happen. And let's talk about that for a second. Brandon Graham didn't want to retire. He said it himself. The timing just didn't feel right. Philly felt like they had everything they needed. So he stepped away, spent time golfing, enjoying life, preparing for what was next. But when Darius Smith retired, everything changed. The Eagles suddenly had a hole. And Howie reached back out. He called BG's agent and said, "We need him. Let's get it done." And once the ball started rolling, it felt inevitable. BG even admitted it might be emotional stepping out of that tunnel at Lincoln Financial Field on Sunday. He might cry. We all might. As much as Brandon Graham's return brings a needed boost of energy and experience, it also shines a light on just how desperate the Eagles are for edge help right now. Let's be honest, you don't pull a 36-year-old out of retirement unless you're short on answers. That's not a knock on BG. He's a Philly legend, no doubt, but it speaks volumes about the state of this pass rush. The Eagles are clearly scrambling to find bodies who can get to the quarterback, and that opens the door to bigger questions about what this team needs to do before the trade deadline hits. Because if the front office thinks this defense, as currently constructed, can survive a deep playoff run, they might be fooling themselves. Let's break down the numbers again. 11 sacks through several weeks of football. That's 25th in the league. Their sack percentage sits near the bottom, and even with high-pressure numbers, it's not translating into real impact plays. Quarterbacks are getting the ball out, staying clean, and exploiting this defense. And the more you look at it, the more you realize how much the Eagles miss having that one dominant edge rusher who can wreck a game on his own. Hassan Reddick isn't there anymore. Josh Sweat has flashed at times, but he's not carrying the load. Derek Barnett has been inconsistent. Nolan Smith is hurt. The rotation is depleted, and it's starting to show. That's why Vic Fangio has had to abandon his usual system and dial up more blitzes, because this defensive line isn't winning one-on-one matchups the way it used to. The Eagles' defensive identity has always been about owning the line of scrimmage. In 2022, they led the league in sacks. They terrorized opposing quarterbacks and made life easier for the secondary. But this year, it feels like the script has flipped. The coverage on the back end has struggled. The run defense has been spotty. And without consistent pressure up front, offenses are finding ways to stretch the field and control the tempo. That's a dangerous formula if you're trying to compete in the NFC, where teams like San Francisco and Detroit can run the ball down your throat or pick you apart through the air. That's why any talk of Max Crosby or any other pass rusher can't just be brushed aside. The idea that the Eagles could put together a package for a star like Crosby isn't far-fetched. Howie Roseman has never shied away from making bold moves. He traded for A.J. Brown. He jumped up in the draft to get Jalen Carter. He's always looking for high-impact players, and he's willing to pay the price if it moves the needle. So while the Cowboys might be kicking the tires on Crosby, the Eagles absolutely have the capital and the urgency to make a deal of that magnitude happen. But let's not ignore the politics of it all. If Crosby ends up in Dallas, that's not just a football move, it's a statement. It's Jerry Jones planting a flag in the ground and telling the NFC East, we're not done yet. And the pressure would immediately fall on the Eagles to respond. That's how rivalries work. One team makes a splash, the other team has to answer. And when the margins are this thin in the NFC, the difference between hosting the NFC Championship game and going on the road could come down to one player, one pass rush, one moment. So now we turn our attention to the front office. What does Howie Roseman do? If the Raiders are looking for 2 first-round picks, and maybe more, is that too rich? Maybe, but it depends on your window. If you believe this is a championship roster, if you believe this team can win it all right now, then paying a steep price for an elite edge rusher isn't reckless. It's necessary. Because Brandon Graham, as beloved as he is, isn't going to fix this defense on his own. He's a complementary piece, a veteran presence, someone who can help in a limited role. But if you're serious about making a deep playoff run, you need someone who can take over a game. Crosby can do that. So can a player like Bradley Chubb, or even someone flying under the radar like Jonathan Greenid. It's also worth noting that the Raiders might be more open to dealing now than they've ever been. Their season is spiraling. They just got embarrassed by Kansas City. They don't have a franchise quarterback. They're not competing in a tough AFC. That's the perfect time for a team like Philadelphia to pounce. Offer a deal, throw in a pick or two, maybe a player who could help them rebuild, and bring in the edge rusher this defense desperately needs. Meanwhile, inside the Eagles' locker room, the return of BG has already shifted the energy. Players love him. Coaches respect him. He's the kind of guy who brings people together, who holds others accountable, who walks the walk. And you can bet that having him around again, in meetings, on the practice field, in the trenches on game day, is going to raise the standard. But the physical toll of the position is real. The Eagles can't expect Graham to suddenly become the dominant force he was a few years ago. This is about depth, rotation, and having another experienced body to throw into the mix while the front office searches for bigger answers. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are circulating through the league. And if the murmurs are to be believed, the Eagles' offensive strategy might be on the verge of a seismic shift. The talk of the town? None other than DOU, the versatile playmaker whose name has been making waves across the NFL circuit. Sources close to the team hint that DOU arrival could redefine how the Eagles attack, turning an already formidable unit into something that defenses might struggle to contain. Though nothing is official yet, insiders suggest that the Eagles have been in talks to integrate DOU into a system that thrives on speed, adaptability, and unpredictability. Observers are already speculating about the impact. Could he form an electrifying duo with the team's current stars, or even take the lead in key red zone situations? Analysts are quick to point out that his agility and knack for finding open spaces make him a nightmare matchup for defenders, and his presence could open up the field for other playmakers in ways the team hasn't exploited before. Rumor mills are also buzzing about how DOU's style could influence the Eagles' play calling. Expect quicker passes, more creative route combinations, and a willingness to take risks that might have been rare in previous seasons. Some fans are already imagining highlight reel catches and late-game heroics, drawing parallels to past league legends who changed the tempo of games just by stepping onto the field. Of course, skeptics are urging caution. Integrating a new talent always comes with growing pains, and the chemistry with the quarterback and the offensive line will be crucial. Yet, the buzz is impossible to ignore. Every practice, every preseason snap will be under scrutiny as pundits and fans alike try to gauge just how transformative DOU presence might be. Could this be the spark that propels the Eagles into a new era of offensive dominance? Only time will tell, but the excitement is palpable, and the rumor alone has already electrified the fan base. The city is abuzz, the locker room is reportedly buzzing, and the league is watching closely, because if DOU really is joining the Eagles, the fallout could be as thrilling as it is unpredictable. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.